Someone made $1.5 billion in the stock market Monday morning. They made it in minutes. They made it before the market opened. They made it on a Monday with no scheduled economic data, no Fed speakers, no earnings reports. A day that every professional trader would describe as having zero event risk. And they made it exactly 5 minutes before the President of the United States posted a war decision on social media. 5 minutes. $1.5 billion. And the entire global financial system watched it happen in real time. Hold 3 questions. 1. The trade was placed on S&P 500 futures. Stock market bets that go up when stocks go up. Simultaneously, $192 million in oil futures were sold short. Bets that oil prices would fall. Both of those positions would become massively profitable if one specific non-public piece of information reached the market before it reached the public, that Trump was about to announce a pause in strikes on Iran's power plants. Who could have known that 5 minutes in advance? 2. This is not the first time. In February, 6 newly created accounts on Polymarket, an anonymous prediction platform, made approximately $1 million by correctly betting that the U.S. would strike Iran on February 28th, hours before the strikes began. And one single trader has won 93% of their Iran-related bets on the platform since 2024, correctly predicting classified military operations before they were announced. The pattern exists across weeks, multiple operations, and 2 separate financial instruments. When does a pattern stop being a coincidence? 3. Donald Trump Jr. is a strategic advisor for Kalshi, one of the 2 largest prediction market platforms now under investigation for insider trading related to this war. The CFTC, the federal regulator that oversees these platforms, received a Trump administration appointment and moved to protect Kalshi in its legal battles. The Trump family has financial exposure to the very markets that appear to be trading on war decisions made inside the Trump administration. Can the regulator investigating the corruption be trusted when the regulated platform employs the president's son? Don't look away. The answers to all 3 questions point in the same direction. To understand what happened at 6:50 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday, March 23rd, you need 1 number, 1 timestamp, and 1 quote. The number 6,200. That is how many Brent crude and West Texas Intermediate oil futures contracts changed hands between 6:49 a.m. and 6:51 a.m. New York time on Monday, a 120-second window. The notional value of those contracts, according to the Financial Times, $580 million. At the same time, separately tracked data from market analytics platform Unusual Whales showed $1.5 billion in S&P 500 E-mini futures, purchased in what it described as a single coordinated move. These figures are measuring different instruments in slightly different windows, but they are pointing at the same event. The timestamp, 7:04 a.m. That is when President Trump posted on Truth Social that the U.S. and Iran had held very good and productive conversations, and he was pausing planned strikes on Iranian energy infrastructure. The quote, and this is from an unnamed trader at a major hedge fund speaking to the Financial Times. It's Monday morning, there's no important data today, there aren't any Fed speakers you'd want to front run. It's an unusually large trade for a day with no event risk. He paused and then said the sentence that matters, somebody just got a lot richer. That is what happened at 6:50 a.m. That is the context. And that is why what happened next changed everything, because what came after was not silence. It was a sitting United States senator accusing the president by name. Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut posted on X at approximately 9:00 a.m. Monday, after markets had opened and the trades were visible in the public record. His post read in full, $1.5 billion. Let me say it again. A $1.5 billion bet, bigger than any futures purchases made at the time, 5 minutes before Trump's post. Who was it? Trump? A family member? A White House staffer? This is corruption. Mind-blowing corruption. A sitting United States senator, on the record with his name attached publicly, accused the president or members of his family or his staff of using a classified war decision to make $1.5 billion in the stock market. The White House response came within hours. Spokesperson Kush Desai stated, any suggestion of insider trading is baseless and irresponsible reporting. The White House does not tolerate any administration official illegally profiteering off of insider knowledge. But that wasn't the real issue, because here is what the White House denial does not address. The trade was placed before the post, not after, before. On a morning with no scheduled news, in a size that was described by Unusual Whales as 4 to 6 times larger than anything else at the time. The S&P 500 E-mini futures volume recorded at 6:50 a.m., according to CNBC's Yoon Lee, represented a sharp and isolated jump in volume, breaking from an otherwise subdued pre-market backdrop. Germany's DAX index futures and the Euro Stoxx 50 also spiked simultaneously. The same pattern, different markets, different instruments, different continents, all moving in the same direction at the same time, 15 minutes before a Truth Social post. Geopolitics analyst Ian Bremmer, who tracks global political risk for a living, posted one sentence about the trades. The corruption is the most structurally significant part of the administration. Drain the swamp. When the person who teaches governments how to manage political risk uses the word corruption without a qualifier, that is not hyperbole. That is an assessment. The real shift was somewhere else entirely, because this was not a single incident. It was the visible peak of a pattern that started before this war began. On February 28, 2026, at approximately 1 a.m. Eastern, U.S. and Israeli forces launched Operation Epic Fury, a surprise military strike on Iran that killed the supreme leader and began this war. It was classified. It was not publicly announced in advance. It was, by definition, known only to a very small circle of people inside the U.S. government. Hours before the first bombs fell, 6 newly created accounts on Polymarket placed bets that the U.S. would strike Iran before the end of February. The strike happened. The accounts collected approximately $1 million in profits. CNN's investigation, working with blockchain analytics firm Bubble Maps, tracked one specific trader who has placed bets on Iran with a 93% win rate since 2024, correctly predicting classified military operations, including Israeli strikes in October 2024, U.S. nuclear facility strikes in June 2025, and the February 28th opening of this war. The trader won $1 million across a pattern of bets on events that were classified at the time of the bet. And separately, $529 million in Polymarket contracts had been wagered on the timing of U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran before the war even began, according to Reuters. $150 million was bet on whether Iran's supreme leader Khamenei would be removed from power, an outcome that required knowing that a U.S. assassination operation was imminent. That's when the balance shifted. This is not about one trade on one morning. This is a documented financial ecosystem in which classified military decisions are being converted into private profit, repeatedly, consistently, and apparently without consequence. But before we get to what that ecosystem actually looks like, and why the people who built it have a direct financial relationship with the Trump family, we need to understand something that almost no financial journalist has explained clearly. Stay with this, because this part changes everything about how you read the $1.5 billion trade. Polymarket and Kalshi are not casino apps. They are prediction markets, platforms where users bet real money on real-world outcomes. Combined monthly trading volume, $18.3 billion in February 2026, up from under $2 billion in August 2025. A tenfold increase in 6 months, driven by the Iran war. Polymarket's CEO, Shane Copland, told Axios it was super cool that his platform creates this financial incentive for people to go and divulge information to the market, including potential insiders. The platform was designed to reward people with access to classified information. Kelsey's strategic advisor is Donald Trump Jr. The CFTC, the federal regulator with jurisdiction over these markets, received its current chairman from a Trump administration appointment. That chairman has publicly backed Kalshi in legal battles. A Nevada court issued Kalshi a restraining order. Federal protection for Kalshi directly benefits the president's son. These are documented financial relationships between the Trump family and the platforms now under scrutiny for trading on Trump's war decisions. On Monday, the same day the $1.5 billion trade was detected, 8 new Polymarket accounts, all created around March 21st, were identified as having collectively bet $70,000 on a U.S.-Iran ceasefire before March 31st. If a deal materializes, those accounts stand to collect approximately $820,000. On March 21st, when those bets were placed, Polymarket's estimated probability of a ceasefire before March 31st was 6%. The accounts bought in at that price. 2 days later, Trump posted that he was winding down operations, a post that immediately moved that probability to 24%. Then, on Monday, his productive conversations post moved it further. Former Cointelegraph researcher Ben York reviewed the accounts for The Guardian and said they definitely look like someone with some degree of inside info. Blockchain analysts noted that the anonymous wallets appeared to be owned by a single individual attempting to obscure their identity across multiple accounts. One of the 8 accounts had previously placed a single winning bet, that the U.S. would strike Iran on February 28th, and place no other bets until this ceasefire cluster. The pattern across accounts is consistent. Appear before an event, profit from classified knowledge, disappear or go quiet until the next event. Without warning, the war in Iran had become a repeating revenue stream for someone with access to the Situation Room. For the White House, baseless and irresponsible reporting. Total denial. For Senator Murphy, the question is specific and unanswered. He introduced the Bets Off Act, banning event trading on sensitive operations and federal functions, to ban platforms like Polymarket and Kalshi from allowing bets on government actions, terrorism, war, assassination, and events where an individual knows or controls the outcome. Both platforms rushed to announce new insider trading rules on Monday. Reactive, not proactive. For the trader at the major hedge fund, somebody just got a lot richer, no name required. For the global financial system, 355 live prediction markets currently exist on the Iran war. Identity of Iran's next leader, date of nuclear deal, when Iran launches its next strike, whether Hormuz reopens. Everyone is a profit opportunity for someone inside the US government who knows the answers first. Here's what the pattern actually reveals when you pull back from the individual trades. Trump's public statements have functioned throughout this war as market-moving instruments, and they appear to have been used as such by people with advanced knowledge. Winding down on Friday sent one set of signals. Obliterate on Saturday sent the opposite. Very good and productive conversations. On Monday reversed the obliterate trade. Bombing our little hearts out on Monday afternoon reintroduced uncertainty. Each of these posts moved Brent crude, S&P futures, oil volatility indices, and prediction market probabilities by measurable amounts within measurable timeframes. The World Socialist website documented this pattern with unusual precision. Trump's statements on Iran, talk of the war ending very soon, hints of productive conversations, threats to obliterate power plants, are not only reckless and criminal, but tools for moving markets in ways that benefit those with inside access. A portfolio manager who reviewed the full sequence of trades for financial media put it plainly. If you knew every Trump post 5 minutes before it hit Truth Social, you could have made extraordinary returns over the last 25 days. The question is whether anyone did. The trades we've seen suggest the answer is yes. In Israel, 2 individuals, including a military reservist, were recently indicted for allegedly using classified material to bet on Polymarket during Israel's 2025 war with Iran. That prosecution exists. The precedent exists. The legal framework for treating this as a crime exists. What does not yet exist in the United States is an investigation. Here is what the $1.5 billion trade actually tells you about the war. A president who has described this conflict as an epic campaign to eliminate Iran's nuclear and missile programs, who has threatened to obliterate power plants, who claims to have achieved major strategic victories, that president's war decisions are simultaneously being used as trading signals by people with apparent access to classified information. The war is, from one perspective, a legitimate national security operation. From another, it is a repeating financial instrument that has generated hundreds of millions of dollars in private profit since February 28th. Senator Murphy framed the stakes clearly. Prediction markets like Polymarket create perverse incentives for government officials to shape life and death decisions around their own financial interests. When a president's social media post can move markets by billions in milliseconds, the incentive to use that post for financial gain before releasing it to the public is not hypothetical. It is structural. Unexpectedly, the most damning detail in this entire story is not the $1.5 billion. It is the 5 minutes. Because 5 minutes in electronic futures markets, where algorithms process information in milliseconds, is not an accident. 5 minutes is a deliberate window, long enough to execute positions, short enough to deny prior knowledge. The war killed thousands of people. The ceasefire announcement was genuine, or it wasn't. The diplomatic talks were real, or they were manufactured to move oil prices. But regardless of which of those things is true, what is documented is this: someone knew what Trump was going to post before he posted it. They placed the largest futures trade of the day. They made a fortune. And as of this morning, no one in the U.S. government has identified who they were. Senator Murphy asked, who was it? Trump? A family member? A White House staffer? That question has not been answered. That question is still open. And the next Trump post about this war is already being priced in somewhere.